Hello, everyone. I'm Lauren Van Hamert, and this is so exciting. I'm so excited to be sitting with Aaron Harrington, who is going to be in Little Shop of Horrors when it comes back. I feel like it's one of the most anticipated shows. So on the 21st of September, which I love the date. If you have any comments or questions, put them in the chat. We will get to them. But welcome, Aaron. Thank you for joining me.
Oh, it's so good to be here. This is like one of the first times I've kind of done something like this, so it's kind of cool. I love it.
Oh my gosh! Well, you did stuff for Rent, right?
Yeah, and that was like, it was similar, but this seems a lot more just personal. With just even North Carolina, that aspect, it's more homey. So.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Well, and I told you before we went live, I think we have a whole fan club on here for you tonight. So you may get people putting in the chat how much they love and miss you, and they're so proud of you. When I put out that last week that we were going to do this, I got a great response. So your hometown misses you and is proud of you.
I miss them too. I've been trying to get home for God knows how long, but they know how much I miss and love them as well. So I can't wait to see their faces either here or there. So I'm excited.
So let's talk about before we get into Little Shop of Horrors, I want to kind of do the backstory a little bit. Where does your love of music come from?
I was born and raised in church, and it's funny you start asking that. I see my mom and my sister are here. So I was born and raised in church. Music's always been a part of our lives. My grandfather was like the minister of music. We all sang, except me, actually. I was the drummer. But it's just always been present. And my love for singing didn't come until my junior year in high school, when I needed an elective for my high school courses, and then kind of took off from there. But the love for music and appreciation for music has always been there. That has never left.
I love that. Yeah. And I read that just a few months after you graduated from Shaw, that your mom sent you packing for New York. And I love this because my mom pretty much did the same thing. She was like, okay, go do it.
Yep.
Go do the things. So talk to me. What was your family a big believer in what you were going to do? Kind of this dream? Was this a dream?
It didn't originally start off as one. It kind of just came my way. My first senior year at Shaw, I ended up going to kind of doing some research to find some time to fill up some classes because, I ended up having to do a second senior year because I switched my major so late to PR and marketing in the mass comm field. And so I only had a few courses. And so I was kind of looking for something to fill up the time other than work. It was a little boring because there just wasn't a lot that I was doing during the day. And so I actually found Theater in the Park, and they were, of course, doing their production of A Christmas Carol. So that's kind of where everything started. That's, I guess, performing on a stage, doing some kind of show. Starting from there was one of those things that kind of sparked that interest. It just grew into something. And I was like, wow, I think I can do this. Like, this is a lot of fun. I'm singing and dancing. And that kind of fulfillment, I don't think there's anything like that. From the Christmas Carol to going to do Rent with David Henderson at Interact, that's when it really started to pick up. And I was like, okay, I like this. And I think my family could also see how much I enjoyed it. And so that's why my mom at some point, she was like, well, there's nothing left here. So goodbye. Get your stuff. Go. Oh, my brother.
Sometimes it takes a mom to, push us out of the nest a little bit.
Yeah, because I don't even think I was going to go anywhere. Because I think by that point, I'd moved back. I left my apartment and I moved back in with her. So then I'm sure she was like, okay, yeah, the point of all of this is for you to leave the nest, not return back. So even with my job searching, I think she had finally reached the point. She was like, okay, so clearly you can't do this for yourself, so I'm going to have to nudge you out. Here
You're
we
going.
are. Here we are.
I love that. I love that. You mentioned playing in Rent at North Raleigh Arts and Creative Theater.
Yes.
You were Tom Collins in that production too, right?
I was. My friend Chasta Calhoun had called me around that time and was telling me that they were doing a production of Rent. And, I had only, actually with a lot of musicals, and that includes Little Shop, I had only known them to be movies. I did not know Rent was an actual play. I didn't know Little Shop was an actual play, but she had called me and she's like, well, we're doing this production. And very early in the morning that she called me, and, I was reluctant, mainly because I think I just wanted to go back to bed. But I was reluctant to do it. But her and our director, David, got me into it. And it literally, I think that was the point. And speaking with all my castmates, they were really like, people make a career out of this. And it was something I didn't see for myself before. And so you could say that was like the strong, actually, that was the straw. That was the straw that broke the camel's back in terms of me really like, you know what? Let's do it. Let's give it a shot. Let's give it a shot. What do I have to lose? I just graduated. Let's go.
So at any point in that production, do you have any kind of vision that you would ever be in that show on tour in that role?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The timeline of how things really like, just the way that it happened and how, in the short amount of time that it happened. Because yes, we had done Rent in North Carolina, but to graduate, and I went to do the show right after I graduated as well, because we had our run. So to graduate, do the show, leave the show, go to New Jersey, audition for the show, and then that following year be a part of that tour, it blew my mind. It even blew my mind that the auditions were happening around the time that I ended up moving, up to New York. And it wasn't, like a small production. This was the 20th anniversary tour for what is Rent. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
God knew what he was doing with me. I think, I couldn't picture it for myself, but it was definitely something that he placed in the path. And I was like, you know what, let's go for this ride. I did not imagine that I would be in this position. I'm still that much more grateful just about everything that's happened and the way that it's happened.
So let's talk about Rent for a second. It is such an iconic show. I told you I had never seen it. I had seen the movie. I had heard the soundtrack, but and I had seen bootleg things online, but I had never actually seen the show until I saw that 20th anniversary production. Talk to me about the show, its legacy, and how it plays 20 years after the fact. As to me, I just watched it and I remember turning to my son at the end saying, this is genius. Like very few shows can you look at and you go, okay, this is genius.
Yeah. Of course, written by Jonathan Larson. Basically the story was about, a group of, 8 friends who had, different relationships with each other. But one of the common themes, or one of the biggest themes about the show, is that it was happening during the period of the AIDS epidemic. And so we're literally following their lives and how they navigate, love, friendship, and just relationships, period. Because, one of the characters in there's one where the relationship's a little shifty. But it's mainly a love story. And the way Jonathan set it up, he used real people from his life and placed them into this iconic show that, I was able to be a part of and be the Tom Collins for the 20th anniversary tour. And it's not an easy show. You're dealing with, themes of like suicide, a lot of death. And then especially when you're doing your own research about, what was happening during that time, a lot of lives were lost to this disease. And, even the president at the time, Reagan couldn't say anything about it, that he just would not acknowledge it in the way that it should have been. And so it's funny how it's still, it's a period piece, don't get me wrong, but it's still relevant even to today. Of us still trying to navigate life and remain calm and remain present during times where things just look bleak and there's so much wrong with the world and there's so much death, from a disease. Turns out this one happens to be a virus, speaking of COVID. Mm-hmm. But it's still relevant. Like, I don't think it'll ever not be relevant. I think that's why even now it's going, on the final, tour for the 25th year.
25th anniversary.
25th anniversary. It just will never not be relevant. Such a beautiful show. I can't even begin to express how grateful I am to that show and for Jonathan Larson and the Larson family and just the whole Rent family. It's something special to be a part of. Yeah.
Now, was that the first show after you moved to New York, the New York area?
Yes, that was my very first audition. That was my very first show. I showed up to that audition with no book, no sheet music, no headshot, no resume. I just showed up because that's how naive I was. I didn't realize exactly what I was doing, but I was told about the audition and I went and got a rude awakening. But thankfully everyone took a little chance on me and about how green I was, and things still progressed. That didn't stop me, but it was the very first show, very first thing I auditioned for.
Do you think, so many of the cast from that show were kind of a little green, that production, the 20th production, which is kind of what I liked so much about it.
Yes, me too. Me too, actually.
I like that there were no, known entities in it, because it made it that much more real and authentic for me.
I agree.
What was the best part of being on tour with that show?
Honestly, for me, it was two things. It was because, again, this was my first time being on a tour. So, we went to a bunch of different cities and a bunch of different states and even went to Japan. But it was being able to compare the response, with the different audiences. So you'll have, the audience in Montana that would be completely different from, let's say, just New Jersey, just throwing in different areas, and how, you can definitely tell which areas were a little bit more sheltered and a little bit more conservative versus, these areas, especially when we went to California, that were just so excited just to, go to a show, feel seen, feel represented, which turns me into the second part that was my favorite. We reached so many people from just even not only the old generation of Rent heads, but we also reached the new generation of Rent heads, people that were dedicated to the show, fell in love with it, whether or not it was from the movie, the last Broadway production, or just any version that they saw, they were captured by the show, and it was an honor to be able to go to their city. They bought tickets they came to see us. We poured our hearts on their stage, and we'd see them at stage door, and they're like, thank you. I've gone through this journey of, I myself am in, a transition, and just seeing you guys, be on the stage and do this beautiful show has really just lifted me and just gave me more light. But the different people we were able to meet, that was probably some of the most beautiful moments and memories that I will always have and always keep.
The surprising thing to me about this show, about Rent, is how it reaches young people, because we have she was 15 at the time, maybe 14, 15, that writes theater criticism for us. And she had written for us for about a year. And at the very beginning, when she first started writing for us, she said, if Rent ever comes, I want to review it. And I thought, really? You're 15 years old. How can you identify with Rent? And the show meant so much to her. And so she did. She went, she reviewed your production, which she loved. But
I'm
it was
glad.
very interesting to me how it reaches that young audience as well.
Yeah.
Not
One
just
thing,
the ones who lived that time.
one thing I've noticed about, the different generations now, this newest generation is in such a more secure place than I was in. I can say that for sure. And I can pretty much say for sure than any generation that came before me. They are so much more secure and validated. And they're coming out the gate knowing who they are, what they want to be. And, especially if they're a theater head, they're able to find, they found a show that, still will resonate with them. No, they may not, have to deal with, AIDS, HIV, but there's still something about that show that resonates with them on such a level that they're like, it doesn't matter if this is, based in the 90s. This is still something that I'm having to deal with, finding love, finding the one that will appreciate me for what I am, no matter what the circumstances are. And finding people to fight for, finding your tribe, finding that community. It's still, I mean, it will never change, no matter what age, which is what I also enjoy about that show. It is a timeless piece and it will live on forever.
I believe it will too. What did you learn from performing it at Interact, from being Tom Collins in that environment, that you brought with you to the tour and to playing that role night after night?
Yeah.
All over the world.
It's funny, the biggest, and this was the biggest struggle for me because, in North Carolina, the way, we were raised, there were things I had no clue about. I had no idea about the trans community. I had no idea about what was going on within the gay community. I had no idea, just about the LGBTQIA plus community, period. And so this show in itself taught me way more than I could have ever expected. One of the things that I had to realize is that no one is any different, any better than you are. And one of the things I struggled with having to do the show in North Carolina was the thought of, wait, but I have to kiss a boy. Like, I can't do that. I'm not in love with him. I love girls. That was my whole thing. And I really had to separate myself from that selfish moment and be like, this is so much bigger than you are. And of course, as we toured the show, there were certain places that also had that issue, especially in the South or in the Midwest, that had that issue with same-sex couples or same-sex relationships. And I really struggled with that at first. But, with my Rent family, especially in the Raleigh area, they were able to really just snap me out of that selfish moment and say, this is not about you. This is a big story that is way beyond you and way beyond your sheltered life. And it really opened my eyes to so much more that I'm able to, really, shout from the mountaintops now as I'm defending our community, our LGBTQIA plus community. I'm in a better place as a human being, being able to accept, not only all the flaws about myself, but all the flaws about everybody else, and also all the beauty of everyone else. It doesn't matter where you are or where you come from, who you are. That's not what's important. What's important is what's in your heart. And that's why this show, I owe so much more to it, because I think that I am so much of a better person. I'm a better man because of that show. And I'm so secure in myself to be able to just continue to do what I do and to continue to spread love to whomever. It doesn't matter. Love is love. That's one of the biggest things Lin-Manuel said on stage that will always stick around with us. Love is love is love. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I love that show so much. I owe it everything.
Oh, I love that. Well, okay. So when did the tour end?
Well, the tour for me ended a little bit sooner than a lot of other people. So I ended up tearing my meniscus the second year, which was something else. We were in Fort Worth, Texas, if I'm not mistaken. And I was stretching backstage right before, I think we had 30 minutes or 20 minutes before showtime, and I had torn my meniscus. We're all frantic, one of the swings. He hadn't been dressed out yet, so this is his first time going on stage as Tom Collins. He's freaking out. I'm freaking out. Of course, it all came together, a beautiful show. But that was 2017. That was the second year in 2017 where it ended for me, because, like I said earlier, the show's still going. They're going on the 25th year. So yeah, for me, it ended a little bit sooner. Tore my meniscus, and I was done for about, I'd say, a year. I really couldn't do too much physically, so I was kind of out of the whole auditioning scene. But like I said, the show continued. They found a replacement, and they kept it going.
And before we leave Rent for a second, what I love about what you're saying about this show is it sounds like it taught you, not that you weren't empathetic before, but definitely that it taught you some empathy. And that's what I love about theater. That's what I think theater does. That's why I love it so much.
Yeah.
Just amazing.
And shout out to all my family. I see all you guys there, my friends, my old roommate. Oh, people from the show.
They're all popping on here to say hello. I told you you have such a big fan base. So fast forward prior to COVID, talk to me about auditioning for one of my favorite shows, Little Shop of Horrors.
You know what? 2019 into 2020 was probably like my most favorite time of being in New York and being in the audition scene. Because it started with, I had just signed to a new agency. I had left my old agency and just signed with a new agency. They started sending me things. I really started booking, booked a workshop. I booked my first debut at 54 Below. I booked my debut with Broadway sessions. Like, little things were starting to add up. And at some point, my agent sent me this audition for Little Shop. Now, prior to signing with all of them, a friend and I had gone to go audition when we first got the audition notice. And it was the very initial one, but we didn't hear anything back. So I found it really interesting that when, all this stuff started happening, my agent was like, oh, by the way, Little Shop wants to see you. And so I lit up and I was ready to go. So I go to this audition and it was perfect. The accompanist was, Lord, I can't even get the word out. The pianist, how about, let's say that for lack of better words.
The accompanist. Okay.
Didn't even get it out. Was a friend of mine. And I was like, oh, this is great. Like, this is already set up. And then everyone behind the table, the director, the choreographer, the assistant director, the assistant choreographer, and the casting agent, they were the most friendly group of people for an audition I'd ever had. So it literally became the most easy-going audition I'd ever had. And I think it translated into me singing the songs for them, and it translated in just the energy in the room. The most solid audition that I've ever had. And all of a sudden, my agents called me like, hey, got something to tell you. You booked the role. And from then on, I mean, I guess we'll get to that, but at least that was the point where I was like, great, I got this role. Call my mom. I'm like, Mom, I got the role. I got the role. While I'm at work watching kids, I'm in tears and I'm trying to balance myself between still being a responsible adult to do my job and also being overwhelmed. So, the most solid audition.
This makes me so happy. Right now, I'm feeling the energy off of you. So all the way here in North Carolina. So you're in rehearsals for Little Shop, opposite. Well, not opposite. It's an incredible cast, but Jeremy Jordan, who some people in this house, my daughter, she's not home. I can say it. She can't slap me because she's not home. Has such a huge crush on Jeremy Jordan.
She seems to be theater's heartthrob. So
Jeremy Jordan was going to step in. Show was getting fabulous reviews. You're in rehearsal and then COVID. So talk to me about rehearsing for the show, getting ready to step into that role. So people, who don't know, you are playing Audrey II, which is plants.
Yeah, it is a plant. It is a man-eating plant. Yes, indeed. Yeah. So literally the day after I called my mom, I think I called her on the 1st, and we started rehearsals on the 3rd. And we got straight into it. It just a quick turnaround. And we started rehearsals. I'm meeting the cast for the first time. I'm seeing the show. So Gideon Glick was still in the role doing it for Seymour. And Kingsley was still doing it for Audrey II. So I was able to see how the show goes, meet the current cast. And then we started rehearsals. So we do rehearsals during the day, and they do the show, that evening or whenever the show was scheduled to be done. And we've been in rehearsals for 2 weeks, and we were in that very final week. And that's when, Jeremy and I were finally starting to get the groove of being able to go through the entire first act. And we also had, some new urchins stepping in. So we were really getting, into the groove of really taking this, to the stage. And then just about every other show, there was a meeting like, hey, there's something going on, there's something spreading and it's making people sick. And so we're going to take a pause on rehearsal, and we'll let you know about, whether we do the show tonight. And I believe that was that Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. And we were supposed to debut that following Tuesday. And then before we could all leave, they were like, yep, turns out we're actually not going to do the show tonight. And, and that show was going to be like our cast party of saying goodbye to everyone else. And they were like, yeah, we're not going to do the show. We'll keep you guys posted. Just go home, take a break, relax, and we'll keep you guys going. And then, here we are. What is this? May 27th. So from March, I'm just going to throw out a date because I think it's right. March 12th of 2020, all the way until May 27th of 2021. It's been what we all know it to be. It's been rough. It's been hard. It's been full of so much. I'll say it's been full of so much joy as well. I should also acknowledge, the good things that happened in 2020 and up until now. But it's been hard for a lot of us. But, being able to get this news really has put a fire under. I can at least speak for myself. I got a fire under me. I'm able to push forward for these next few months through the summer, come back strong, come back vocally rested, and just be ready to work,
I love it. So talk to me about seeing the show, knowing you're going to step into this role. I mean, this is a pretty incredible role to play as well.
Yeah.
Also iconic.
Yeah.
We were saying Audrey has on her handle. So
yeah.
So talk to me about the show and meeting the plant that becomes your face.
Yeah. So this is, and it's an interesting thing because, like I said, I'd seen the movie before I'd seen the play. So when I saw Little Shop, watching the cast do it, that was the first time I'd seen the play. Excuse me. So I'd always grew up with the movie, and hearing Levi Stubbs sing, for Audrey II, which was such a mix of just, Little Richie, just with that rock and roll sound that I grew to love. And it's so funny that I now have to, try and, well, at least in my head, try and take that sound and kind of make it my own and produce something that, no one else is doing, to create that individual or the individualistic aspect for the plant, now that I'm there. But yeah, for those who don't know anything about the show, my family is cutting up over here. I see all of y'all. Hi. For those who don't know anything about the show, literally a little show. It's called Little Shop of Horrors, and it's about this guy named Seymour who comes across this plant. I really don't know how to give the plot without giving it away, so I'll try. He comes across this plant that creates so many more problems for him than he could have ever imagined. And so I think I'll leave it there because I don't think I know how to take it much further without saying what it actually is. Come see the show starting September 21st. So me stepping into it and actually being able to see the puppet was probably the most cool. It was the coolest thing ever. And seeing how it's operated. We have, two great guys, Teddy and Eric, who actually are the ones in charge of manipulating the plant. While I'm in a booth at the top. I'm just singing. They just have my voice. And so, Teddy, Eric, and our job is to just make everything sync. So they're moving things with my voice. I'm also trying to stay, slow enough and also fast enough that it moves, but it also gives them an opportunity to move the plant. And the size of that thing, it's enormous. It's enormous.
I was going to say, we're not talking about like a handheld puppet. We're talking, and I find it very interesting. I was looking for pictures. There are no pictures of the full size plants.
No pictures, none whatsoever.
No pictures, but there are little plants, pictures of the small plants.
Yeah, there is one that is. That is definitely sizable, but it's still pretty It's a handheld puppet. But when we get to the final stage of Audrey II, that thing is incredible. It's probably the biggest puppet that I've ever even been, that close to. I don't even know. I can't even express how it takes your breath away when you see it. At least when I got to see it, I was, face to face with this thing, seeing how it operated, looking at its mouth, the teeth, feeling that it was great. It's great. It's great. It's incredible.
So exciting. Let me ask you this, puppetry on Broadway is become a thing.
Yes.
And it's come so far from and early puppetry. I mean, The Lion King, I think, set the bar for puppetry so high.
Yeah.
And then King Kong, that puppet was crazy off the charts. Did you learn anything from other people who had done kind of the voice and the puppetry of some of these other shows, or no?
No. One of the things that a lot of my friends up here hate about me is the fact that I have not seen that many shows. I can probably count on one hand the amount of shows I've seen or been able to see. And if I'm not mistaken, all except one, none of them had puppets. And the one that I saw was Wicked. They've got the big dragon. And I guess that's more of a animatronic kind of a thing more than a puppet. I don't know exactly how they worked it. My friend Cheese here, he's the flyman, so I'm sure he knows how things operate back there. But I have a dream, also like a side dream, to do voiceover work. So it was not really seeing, these stage shows. It was more like seeing these shows and I'm like, oh, I could do that voice, and trying to, match the speed of my talking to, the way that the animated character is going, and, memorizing the character. And that all started with Lion King. Mufasa, I've got this, this deep voice. I'm like, I can do this. I could be Mufasa, or I could be grown up Simba. But it's not as hard as it looks. I think it really just requires patience to just know that you're probably going to mess up a few times, because it's not only just your voice that you have to be aware of. You have to also be aware of the physical capabilities, because like I said, that is a huge puppet. And, you can only move but so quick with the pulley system, you know what I mean? So it's just being mindful of the different moving parts and really being able to be patient to let them all work together seamlessly. So it's kind of one of those things that they just kind of threw me in there, not without any guidance, of course, but they kind of threw me in there and let's give it a shot. Let's give it a shot.
Love it. The thing about Little Shop also that I find interesting is I was sitting in a workshop with one of the producers, and he was talking about the fact that this is really off-Broadway show. It will always be an off-Broadway show. It kind of that's where its life is.
Yeah.
And so part of that is kind of intimacy of the theater that plays a part in this whole believability factor.
Yes.
So talk about the size audience and that vibe of that theater when you were watching the show in rehearsals, kind of get whole down.
Yeah, even with people, with the news breaking of the show returning, and there were friends and family are asking about tickets and what's a good seat. The main thing I've been telling people is there really isn't a bad seat. The theater is very intimate, and I agree. Like I think Little Shop should always be done in an intimate theater, because you kind of place yourself kind of in this shop, or if you imagine it, you're in the street, you're on the sidewalk, peering into the window of the flower shop across the street, Mushniks. So I think it should always be done in an intimate theater, especially just without ruining things. I'll just say theater magic, the things that happen on stage that you can't really explain, but you're like, whoa, you know what I mean? That would never go across as potently as it would in like the any other big Broadway theater. And I've also been telling people, just because a show is, deemed off Broadway, that does not make it less, that does not make it more. It's literally just based off the size of the theater. We've got actors of a high caliber. Yeah, we got Jeremy Jordan, but we also got everybody else of that high caliber that have been a part of these big Broadway shows. It's really just the size of the theater. And personally, and just like the producer said when you were sitting in that meeting, it should always be done that way. If it's done any other way, it kind of takes away the effectiveness of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and Christian Borle's coming back.
Christian Borle is coming back. Absolutely.
And Tammy Blanchard as Audrey.
Yes.
We do have a question, and I think you answered this, but just to clarify for people, you are not the puppeteer, you're the voice.
Right. I am. So even when they list me out, I am the voice of the plant. So different productions do different things when it comes to Audrey II. I think when Amber Riley did it in Cali, if I'm not mistaken, she was, physically in this suit or this costume, that was, giving vines and all these other things. No, I am physically in a booth. I am not anywhere on stage. You will hear my voice when it's time to hear my voice, but you will see this animatronic puppet or this, you know what I mean? Or this man-handled puppet. And you'll see me after the show. So yeah, you will not see me at all. You will not see it. Plus, I'm not the one you want to see. The one that just really gets me every show was Christian Borle. The way that he plays the dentist and how much of a comedic genius he is on stage, it's insane. It's insane. And I don't care how many times I see that show. I laugh at him like it was the first time I had seen it. So you don't need to see me anyways. It's cool. It's fine.
I wouldn't let, I'm telling you, I'm going to have to plan a trip because I love this show. Yes, The Dentist.
Yes.
Without giving away too many spoilers, this is kind of a very 1950s, like one of those old horror movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yep. And it's like with the music is very in that era, very doo-woppy, and the comedy is also there as well. So what do they call? I forget what they call that satire comedy. It's great. It's great.
It's great. Very it's just so good. Listen, get our Broadway cast album. Listen to the Broadway cast album.
It's incredible.
So good. Since the pandemic shut everything down, now Little Shop is a little different because Little Shop, the production scene, it's always had kind of a diverse cast. Rent has always had a diverse cast. Yeah. But since the pandemic shut everything down, we've seen this rising up in the We See You White American Theater movement.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Do you think that we are going to... Are we experiencing some sort of cultural shift in the stories that we're going to see on and off Broadway and people who get to tell those stories?
I think we are. I think it's starting. I think there's a start of us moving to that. about who tells these stories, who writes these stories that make it to the Broadway stage. Because at the end of the day, a lot of the shows that are returning were already, supposed to be in production, before the pandemic. And then if we look at the list of shows that are returning, you don't really see too much of a change. Now, there's been some news about, new shows coming. I wish I could remember the name of the show, but it's an all-black cast, all-male black cast.
Thoughts of a Colored Man.
Thoughts of a Colored Man. I think that's incredible. I think that's incredible. That's something that I can look forward to, that I'm like, wow, now this is different. I haven't seen anything like this on the Broadways, at least while I've been, knowledgeable about what's going on the Broadway stage. I think it's a start. Do I think that, for example, the We See You White America, white Broadway world movement has had an effect on the, what's actually still being produced? No. But I do think that there were some eyebrows raised and some ears that were opened that, I am really, truly, truly, truly hopeful that they were listening and they were watching, and that we are able to see more of a change and more diversity within this industry. Our cast definitely, had that standard before, we went to, before we, got cut off by COVID. But there still are some things, even with our show, that still need to be discussed, still need to be changed, still need to be monitored, and adjusted. Simply put, I would like to see a bigger change. Essentially, that's why I wasn't able to answer that question as quickly as I would have liked. But I see that there is a start, and I guess it has to start from somewhere. When you're looking at an industry that was rooted in one thing, and we're trying to make a huge shift. And that would not only just, happen in New York on the Broadway and off-Broadway stage, it also happen in the regional scene. It will also happen on the tour scene. It'll also happen on the West End. You know what I mean? Like, there are other sections of this industry that it needs to trickle down to as well. So it's going to be a bit of a fight. It's going to be a little while. It's definitely going to be a little while.
I think so. Yeah. But I think, speaking to the significance of a show like Rent, and even seeing a like Little Shop, I think representation and inclusion is so important. It's important for people to be able to see themselves on stage, so they know this is even a possibility, that this dream is even possible. So I hope we do see some more diverse stories and people telling stories.
I do too.
What has COVID and this shutdown taught you about yourself and being an artist?
I think the main thing that it's taught me is that, well, I'll say one thing that it's confirmed. Let's talk. One thing that it confirmed is that this industry does not define me. Just because I'm not on stage does not make me a creative. I'm sorry, it does not make me a creative. It does not make me a singer or an actor or a musician. You know what I mean? If anything, what it has taught me is that I have even more time to really bring these aspects out. One thing is sitting right beside me. One thing that I really tried to focus more on is learning the acoustic guitar and writing music again. And I even got a piano and a guitar. But it's really taught me that you don't need the eyes of the world or the lights of a stage to really be what you already know that you are, what I inherently am. And that is a creative. I love to sing. I love music. And nothing, even though I'm not on a stage, that still does not stop the love that I have had for music. Like I told you earlier, from being in church, hearing my grandfather play the organ, you know what I mean? Watching my uncle play the drums, or watching my aunts sing on, in the pulpit, or my mom. So it's really confirmed and really strengthened my love for music, if anything, and taught me that you don't need everybody else to tell you what you can and can't do. If it's what you want to do and what you enjoy doing, do it. Do it. Especially with the death of so many people, life is short. And I don't know how many times we need to hear that cliche and be reminded, but life is short. It will always be short. So you have to live it to the fullest. We can't sit inside and sulk. We have to do things. We have to stay active, even when it comes to protesting. I protested a lot during the summer, and even though it had nothing to do with music, it was my freedom of expression. I was still able to activate that. So not everything had to be done that was within music. It was just the fact that I could do something. That COVID reminded me, you still have the ability to do it. You still have the breath. You still have the movement. Do it. Just go do it. Do something. So yeah.
What
Love you, man.
when do you go back into rehearsal for Little Shop?
Rehearsal start August 16th. I am counting the time. I am counting the days, the weeks, the hours. August 16th is when we resume.
And September 21st you open, which is a significant day in the show. If you even listen to the cast, you can hear.
You will hear it. You will definitely hear it in the opening. We're talking about September 21st. So it couldn't be any more perfect.
It is perfect. And what advice would you have for young people who are watching this, young people who are growing up in Raleigh or who are at the beginning of their career or entering Shaw in August in the fall? What advice do you have for them about making it, living this dream that you're living?
My biggest thing would be, don't put too much pressure on feeling like you have to do the right thing all the time. I was blessed and fortunate enough to be where I am, but nothing was done intentionally. I am not doing musicals intentionally. This was something that I was able to give myself time and to allow myself to enjoy or figure out what I enjoyed out of life. When I went to Shaw, I started as a music major. I didn't particularly, connect with what the curriculum was. So I switched my major to psychology. Then I was like, I don't really like psychology. So I kind of went undecided for a while. And I'm a junior at this point. I'm a junior in college when I, went undecided. And then come my senior year, that's when I found mass communications. And that has opened up avenues in itself, the fact that I did mass communications and the work that I've been able to do with different people. But I'm currently doing something that I never intentionally went for, but it was something that I kind of found and realized that I enjoyed it more than anything I had been doing since then. I don't think there's a formula for anything in life because there's something called free will and destiny. You know what I mean? You can be destined to do so many things, but if you choose not to do it, then, that was your decision. Just enjoy life. That is the biggest thing. If you enjoy it, just do it. Just do it. I think I've done a lot of things in life where I felt like I had to. Like I even remember working for AT&T's corporate office because it was within my field. Right before I went to Jersey, and I was miserable. I'm working in an office. I got an office job, and it was like a 9 to 6 job, and it was good money, but I didn't enjoy it. I worked there. I drove home, and I ate and watched TV and went to bed and did it all over again the next day. Life is so much bigger than that. It has to be bigger than that. There has to be more. You cannot be stagnant in life. So my advice would just be do what you love, and if you don't know what you love, find it. Try things, try new things. I'm the king of odd jobs. I was a ski instructor. I drove motorboats. I just did it all. The ski technician, anything that I wanted to try, I just went for because why not? You know what I mean? And now I'm able to say, this is what I love doing. I tried it all, but this is what I love doing. This is what I enjoy. This is what my purpose is in because I allowed myself that time to figure it out. And I think that's something we all can do. And I don't think age or is a factor in this. You know, you can start now. You can start whenever.
And faith play into it, because
Yes.
if it's
Yes.
not divine intervention that you go from Tom Collins at Interact to having an audition for, you know, role in Rent on tour, that feels like divine intervention to me. But how does faith play a part in this?
You said how does faith play a part in this?
In your journey?
Oh, that's I mean, there's literally nothing. I mean, everything that especially in this industry, you cannot be doubtful of yourself in this industry, because this industry will chew you up and swallow you out. Chew you up and spit you out. Excuse me. You have to be so confident in yourself, number one. And then you also especially have that faith in yourself, in God, you know, not everyone believes in God, but I can definitely say I do. You have to have some kind of faith to do what we do. Because you will hear no after no after no after no. You know, I was in, you know, I've got my two of my best friends here that were also my roommates. I auditioned for Hamilton for the longest time and got all the way until the finals and was told no. You know, I went to the other guy, and, you know, they had to watch me and hear all about that. But that couldn't stop me. That didn't deter me from continuing. That would have been probably one of the biggest moves in my career at that time, but it just wasn't my time, and it wasn't my destined show. And I had to have faith again in myself that you know, it wasn't me. It wasn't about me. And that it was just about the mold that I just didn't happen to fit at that time. And then I had to have faith in God that he had something bigger and better. And now I'm looking at, you know, doing Little Shop of Horrors with the likes of Jeremy Jordan, Christian Borle, Tammy Blanchard. You know, Gideon Glick was doing this show. You know, I'm emailing with Jonathan Groff, just having casual conversation. You know what I mean? It just wasn't my time then, but it is my time now. And I'm ready to take those reins and move forward. But I mean, faith is the evidence of things not seen. You just have to have it. And that's what I'm doing. I had faith that if I stayed in New York, I wouldn't catch COVID. Didn't happen. So faith worked there too. And I'm fully vaccinated. But it's just, I don't know, man. Like, faith is huge. You can't do life without faith in something. You have to have faith in something. If it's not in other people or family or, you know, religion or, you know, spirituality, at the very least, you have to have it in yourself. No matter if you fall, if you fail, you have to keep going and know that things will work out.
I love that. I feel like I just feel like we've been to the Church of Aaron Harrington, and I am so excited to see what you do next.
Listen,
although I do have to come and see you in Little Shop.
Yes, please. Please come see me. I'll be here. I'm not going anywhere. You know, I will be here. So please come and see me.
And please come home, get some good barbecue.
Oh man, listen, I am trying to make this work, especially before we start rehearsals, you know, on the 16th. I at least want to come home for a bit. Because I know once the show starts, who knows what's going to happen then. So I'm coming home. I'm coming home. Just give me some time.
I'm so happy to hear that. And I know there's a lot of people on here who are happy to hear that as well. And just stay safe, stay healthy, and keep us posted on all the wonderful coming your way, because I think this is just the beginning. I have a feeling. Yeah. So
yeah, absolutely.
And if you are out there waiting to get tickets for Little Shop, I would say get them, because I know before COVID it was sold out. You couldn't get a ticket. I couldn't. I'm a theater critic. I couldn't get a ticket. So get your tickets. And I think we're all due for a big field trip to New York. I can't wait to get back to the theater. So
Absolutely.
congratulations. I'm so excited about this announcement, and just stay safe and healthy. And when I come, I'm going to be calling you saying, I'm coming to the show.
I'm here. We're going out for drinks afterwards. So, and just, yes, I need you here to come see the show. My brother is over here really just dangling all the incentives to coming home. Please stop. You're making things worse. But please come and let me know when you get here. Let me know.
I will. Thank you, everyone, for watching. I love that your whole family is on here hanging
What's
out.
up, plan?
And if you tuned in late, you can watch this from its entirety either on YouTube or Facebook the minute we go offline, or you can watch it on the website, or in a couple of weeks you can hear it on Apple Podcasts. I'll repurpose it into a podcast, but I'm so excited for you, and just stay safe, and everyone have a great holiday weekend.
Love you all so
and
much.
I will yes, I will see you all soon. This was amazing.
Yeah,
I will run some I told you I had a whole fan club on here.